Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the previous series of data, we learned a lot of functional interfaces with my FitApp application sample example, right? We try to interrelate all the functional interface like suppliers, then functions, predicate, and consumer with a real world example of a MyFit app and used it practically within our code so that we can get some hands-on experience, right? We also use a lot of streams API right here, right, and got the data to get transformed from one format to another format, right. But in my experience, I think many developers who are starting with learning Java programming needs a more clarity on topics such as streams API. So in this video, I thought let me extend this application same example and give a little bit of an overview of Java streams and its APIs and its concepts. Conceptually, if we look at Java streams, it is used for doing sequential stream processing or parallel processing. So you might ask what a stream is. Essentially, stream is a pipeline of aggregate operation. Can you see here? Here we have a streams, right? And we do start any stream on a collection. List of users is our collection, right? So we do start our streams on list of users or the collections. So it is essentially a pipeline of aggregate operations. When we talk about aggregate operation, we mean the filter, the map method, the sort method or sorted method, right? These are all our aggregate operations. We'll take a deep dive in aggregate operations and how they are divided into two different phases, right? And they are used to process this set of elements or streams of elements, which we call it as values or data, and get an output from it, right? So now let's move on to what is an aggregate operation, right? So aggregate operations are sort of higher order functions, or higher order functions you might be aware of are those functions which accepts another function as an argument. So basically higher order functions accepts the behavior. A behavior can be any lambda expression. For example, at my screen we can see there is a behavior in under a predicate functional interface that we just want users with age greater than 30. So that particular behavior or that lambda expression, we pass it to our filter method, which in turn is an aggregate method. And it aggregate methods are also called as higher order function because higher order functions accepts that behavior as an input, right? So these are the aggregate operations. Now let's talk about uh, what are the different types. So before I explain you how the streams work and how it starts with start phase and the end phase, let's discuss what are different types of aggregate operation which we can work with. So basically aggregate operations are divided into two categories. One are called as an intermediate operation, second one is called as a terminal operation. And within intermediate operation we have two types of operation called a stateless operation and a stateful operation, right? So intermediate operations are those operations like this filter, like map, all these are called intermediate operation, right? And they run into a specific phase of streams API, you know that. So let me now talk about different types of phases in streams. A streams basically contains three main phases. First one is called the splitting phase, and then we have apply phase, and then we have, let me type here, the first phase is called the split phase, then we have apply phase, and then there is combine phase, right? So now our discussion of split we will talk in the next minute. The apply phase basically holds the aggregate operations, all the aggregate operations. An aggregate operation consists of intermediate operations. right? And the combine is again an aggregate operation, but it falls under a different criteria of aggregate operation called as terminal operations, right? And there is also a significance of this terminal operation, which that we'll discuss in the next minute. Now what we'll discuss is how does the split phase get started with any stream, and what does it mean by splitting. So imagine we have a list of users. So these are the list of data that we obtain. This would be our input source. So let me show you in this example. Yes, see, I have already defined an input data, which is this list of users. Let's say I want to stream pipeline it with the help of streaming. Now the purpose of the streams is that we want to work with huge collections of data, right, and work it so efficiently that we can do transformation within the internal working of that code and with a good efficiency, right? So in this we want to sequentially, instead of processing it one by one, we hand over all the lists of users here in this case to process it, and it will internally do all the splitting tasks and assign it to multiple workers threads in case of parallel programming and let it process, right? So in order to work with this data set, the collection data set, we'll first need to split it. So the split phase happens when we define the stream method. So let's now use the stream method first to activate the stream phase. What does the stream phase basically does is, we can look at the declaration of this. See, stream method is part of collections interface, and it's a default method which uses the stream support utility to use this splitterator method, splitterator interface to the static stream method. This splitterator interface basically uses some characteristics and integer characteristics and that stream instance to return as the splitterator. Basically this interface will help us to split the data into different chunks of data. So here it is used for traversing and partitioning elements of a source. The source of elements covered by splitterator can be, for example, an array or collection, an IO channel, or a generator function, right? Splitterators may traverse elements individually or sequentially in a bulk. A splitterator may also partition off some of these elements as another splitterator to be used in possibly parallel operations. So basically we can split our collection of data, right? We split it into different partitions. If we require to do parallel processing, in sequential it will only split it into in-memory database, correct? So with the help of the stream method we will initiate the splitting phase. After that, with the help of Fluent API, we will hit on all the apply methods. So we will apply different filter methods. If we want to filter out only those methods or those elements whose age is greater than 30, so there we'll apply this. So this is basically called as a, so let me define this, break it down, giving some comments. This is the splitting phase, right? This is called the apply phase, where we apply the aggregate operations or intermediate operations. And one characteristics of these intermediate operations are they are stateless. Basically this particular filter argument or behavior, they are called stateless because they internally does not store the state of that data structure. The user's data structure, they do not hold the state of the data structure. They only transform the existing data structure's value, but they do not keep the state of its data structure. Basically it does not have any side effect, hence they are called as stateless intermediate operation. Clear? Then we again, let's suppose we have another example of an intermediate operator called map, and in the map we just want to get the users with the help of method reference. Clear? This is again called apply phase, with aggregate intermediate operation. Same, this is apply phase. Okay, then we also have some stateful operations. Stateful operations basically means it will hold the state of the data, structure. So basically it will create some side effect, it will have some update operation, it will have some copies of that data structure, and it basically modifies the collection of users. So that's an example of stateful operation. Again, it's an intermediate operation, but it's a different kind of an intermediate operation. It's a stateful operation, right? Then that's it. So we have talked about the splitting phase, we talked about the apply phase. Now we talk about the final or the terminal operation supported, called the combine phase. So the combine phase is basically an aggregate operation again, but it's of a different category. It is called as terminal operation, correct? And a terminal operation basically is very important, because up till now when we were developing writing all the instructions, let's say the stream, filter, map and sorted, we weren't executing any instruction on our database, right, on our data set or the list of user collection. We were just creating a graph of instruction which will only be triggered when we define a terminal operation or a aggregate operation under the combined phase. So basically this is a good example of lazy processing in terms of programming. Like we give in all the instructions, a splitting phase, the apply phase, but it will only be triggered, or it will only pull the data source for processing this pipeline once the terminal operation is run or is used for triggering the database, triggering the data set. Right? And also one thing to notice is that every stream pipeline has only one and only one terminal operation, correct? Another thing to understand is when the split phase occurs, now we get a return type of stream of E. So this returns a sequential stream with collection as its source, and the collection as its source we are passing to our streams example is the list of users. Quite simple, right? Right, we are missing a semicolon here and it will give us the result will be list of user, and we can write here as modified user. What's the error? Should give list of strings because the map is only returning the get name, right? There are many examples of terminal operation. Here I only demonstrated you the to list operation, but there is another terminal operation called as for each, right? We talked about the for each in the previous example, right? So for each के बारे में भी हम लोग ने डिस्कस करा है, ठीक है? Let's now use modified user to print out all the users, ठीक है? Quickly we'll test this. I hope आप लोग को overview मिल गया है. You got the overview of the streams API, how this, what are the different phases of uh, the streams, how the streams are initiated, how the pipeline is built and how it is triggered. This essentially is very important. ये काफ़ी important concept है to be keep in your mind, because this might also be asked in interviews. This streams API is also useful. This concept will always be useful if you are trying to learn advanced topics like reactive streams, right? Then will also be useful in many data processing pipelines also used in Apache Spark. It is also used in Apache Flink for stream processing. So having this basic concept right now with you will help you to build up on different advanced topics, which is heavily used in many companies like Netflix. It is used in many companies like Walmart. It is used in many companies like Google. It is used in many companies, in many Indian companies like Zomato. All these companies heavily use Java on their backend side along with other programming languages. But yes, in 2024 Java got demand mein. So I feel you should learn this programming language and make yourself a good Java developer. So summing it up, this was a small overview of Java streams and all the intermediate operations, aggregate operations that we have discussed. And yes, if you want to find the list of aggregate operation, you can go to this method, this class called stream class, and यहाँ पे this stream interface has all the aggregate operations defined here, like stream, map, map to int, reduce, map, flat map, and you see this flat map method, flat map to int. All these are the list of aggregate methods that we can use to do different kinds of operations, and that's it. I hope the overview of the split streams API was clear. In upcoming videos, we'll discuss more advanced topic. Thank you for watching this video. If you have watched the video till now, please subscribe to this channel and leave out your comments in case if you want to have any certain topics to be discussed in more detail or have any doubts regarding this specific topic. Thank you for your time. Goodbye. Bye bye.